everyone, it's Jen here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be drawing and painting this beautiful little duckling in watercolour. So I'm going to start with the basic shape of the head. So it's basically just a circle. So start with a circle like that, as close to a circle as you can do. And then the body behind the head is basically just another circle. And that is pretty much the duckling. All I do now is I add in the extra shapes that you can see in the reference photo, so that you can see his little neck there. Just start to add the shapes, the different shapes on the little bird. Now he's got his little beak is about half the width of his head. So we measure his head, it's about that, and then his little beak comes about halfway. And it's got a rounded end like that. Like that, and then we just add the little bottom bit. Now his eye is closer to the front, but about just half of it is above the top of the beak and half of his little eye is below the beak. So we add that in, and then he's got cute little markings that come down and around. That's what make him look like a little duckling. He's got his little stripes, which are super cute. They help to camouflage him. And they go around the top of his little head and around the back there. And I'm gonna take that down onto the back of his little head there. Now, he's got little stripes. I'm going to just soften that line. I'm gonna keep the circle, but I wanna fuzzy him up. So I'm gonna give him little fuzzy little back, because he's got all these little baby feathers. Like that. So here's where you start to make it look less like circles and more like a duckling. You just change the edges of your lines into the fuzzy lines, like that. He's actually got a little, his beak comes back onto his face a little bit. So I'll pop that on there like that. I can see his little nostril about there. And I can also now start to add the colours that you can see. And then his little back colours. You're going to just see one of his little legs popped up there. So I'll pop his little leg in and take his tail down to the water. So now I can erase the larger circle shape, because I've taken off the bottom of the circle because that's sitting on water. I'll take off the top of the circle, and there you have your little duckling. I'm going to pop him on some water. So I'm just going to, I'll just put blue all around him, and I'll give him some little ripples, and I'll add that onto his water, and I'll just come down there like that. Okay, and now we can start to add colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little highlight on his little eye, and I'm going to go straight in. So let's go straight in up the top there, and I'm going to start by adding the yellow in any of the yellow areas on the little duckling. So come around here. I can go anywhere where the darker spots are, I can go over with the darker tones. It won't matter. So I'm just going to add the yellow in anywhere that I see the golden bits on the duckling. So it doesn't have to be exactly like the photograph. It's, you know, doesn't matter at all. It's fun to just be relaxed and do your colours where you want them. And it can be up to you. It doesn't have to be exactly like the photo is just inspiration. So come down there like that. Righto. So that's his little yellow colouring. Now he's a golden brown. So I am going to use transparent oxide brown, which is a beautiful reddy golden brown, for the first layer on the darker feathers. And I'm just going to keep it soft. I'm not going to go quite to the yellow because I don't want it to mix together with the yellow. And then once the yellow dries, then I can take it right up to the close up to the edge. But I'm just blocking in where I can see these darker tones. And keep the edges soft. Come right around here. And because the water's going to be blue at the end, I can add some darker feathers that you can see he's got little tiny sort of hairy feathers almost that are popping out around his little body, that keep him warm, his little soft feathers that keep him warm. So now he's pretty much dry. I can go around the outside of his little eye and go up to those lines now. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a slightly darker brown. So I'm going to go in with burnt umber because he is quite a dark brown. But I'm going to go over the top. While that's still damp, I'm going to go in with some burnt umber just to get a bit of a few different tones on there, a few different greys and browns. Doesn't matter that I go onto the yellow a little bit because his feathers are soft and fluffy and they do go sort of everywhere. I'll make up a grey using brown, burnt umber and cobalt blue just around the front of his little chest and the darkest darks on his browns. I'll make up a browny grey just to, you can see how fast I'm doing this. It's just a sketch. It's just a fun, easy watercolour sketch. So now I'm going to make up the grey, burnt umber, cobalt blue, and I'm going to pop that in here around the darkest dark areas. I can see he's dark around his little eye. So I'm adding that brown grey there. He's super dark just on the top of his little head. So add that in there. He's quite dark around this front feathery area. And then his little leg is quite dark. So I come around the back of this feather, where his wings would be. His little wings are tucked up. You can barely see them. I think that's his little wing there, actually. So now I'm going to go onto his little beak. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to go onto his little beak and I'm going to go in with yellow ochre. And I'm just going to touch that onto his beak. Fill that in all around there. Take it back onto his little face like that. There we go. That's his little beak in. I've got to add a darker brown. I'm going to use that same grey. I'm going to let it mix on the paper. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that grey that I already had on my palette. Just around. Like that. Anywhere I can see the darker tones. Just like that. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Now, he's dry underneath and around the back of his little body, so I'm going to go in with the water. The water's green in the reference, but I'm going to make it blue. So I'm going to go in with ultramarine. I'm going to clean my palette a little bit. Pop in my ultramarine. And I'm going to do a wash first. So I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to go around the bottom of this little duckling. I'll stay away from his paint a little bit, just so it doesn't, just in case. I just don't want it to get onto the bird. So come around here. I need a bigger brush. Makes it a bit easier. Make sure it's clean. And go back into my blue. Oh no, go into the water. And I'm just going to take that around right to the bottom. I've got to stay away from that top edge of the little duckling a little bit, because he's pretty much dry. Most of him is dry. And I'm using hot press watercolour paper, which is a smooth watercolour paper. So it's a little bit different to using the grainy paper. The paint does travel a little bit differently, but I quite like it. I think it's a fun to use different kinds of papers. Okay, so that is pretty much the water in. I've just got to now, while it's still wet, add water effect. So I'm going to leave little gaps of the light so it'll create like a ripple effect. Go right up to the little duckling because he's almost dry now. Just keep going while that's still damp. The water will travel, the paint will travel and do what watercolour does best. I come around him and I'll leave a little highlight for the ripples. So just leaving the lower layer, like the lighter tone I've got underneath. I'll do a circle shape for the ripple. And again, I'll go over again, just Well, it's drying off really quickly actually. Got a warm day here today, so the paint's drying very quickly. So I just go in and add these ripples. And then you can see he's got some darker tones in the background. Now in the reference it is green. The water is a greeny colour, but I just wanted to add blue because I like blue. So we're going to add just some lines of the little waves in the background. I'll come up here. And there we go. So I've just got to add the little duckling's eye now. Add his, I could also add a bit of his shadow, because you can see he's got his shadow there, but I'm just going to use this blue. I'm going to really darken up underneath him. But I'm going to go back in with more paint, less water, directly under him, and let that travel, and that'll help to make his little shadow as well. Like that. I'll just do it darker over here where his head's reflecting. A little bit darker there. A little bit of a point where his beak is. I'll come around the back. I'll get right up to him now because he's dry. Get a little sort of darker under here where there's a little bit of a shadow. And now I'm going to go on and add his little eye. So go back to my little brush. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of Payne's, a touch of Payne's Grey. And I'm going to pop that in, being careful to leave the highlight in the middle of his eye, the little sparkle that you can see in the middle of his eye. Being careful to leave that, the teeniest, tiniest little sparkle. And I'm also going to add my brownie grey onto his nostril now. And anywhere that I can see that's a little bit darker, I'm going to go and add in some darker tones. He's got his little feathery bit there, his little ears got a grey bit. Right, and I'm going to go back in with a little bit of this grey onto these back feathers again. And just add in some feathery texture. Now with the yellow, I'm going to actually go in with a little bit of a darker yellow as well. I'm just going to go in with a bit of Indian yellow, and just to add some feathery textures. So it's a slightly stronger yellow, slightly darker, just to add a little bit of interest on the yellow areas. Because you can see that he does have different yellows, because different parts of him are wet and different parts of him are dry, and bits are reflecting in the sun. So it's always fun to look at, try and see as many colours as you can see. I'll add little feathery bits there. There we go. So that is a simple, fast little duckling, and how easy it is to draw. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love it if you click like and subscribe, click on the bell icon. That way you'll be notified when I release a new video, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Okie doke. Bye.